As we begin today's perspective, I want to start with a statement. Here's the statement. The decisions you make and the actions you take in moments of transition will determine whether or not you are successful. I'll say it again. The decisions you make and the actions you take in moments of transition will determine whether or not you are successful. Now, perhaps you've noticed that in our world, there is a lot of transition taking place. We have people transitioning from working in an office environment to working at home, children learning at home who once learned in a school. We look down the road and we wonder if things will ever get back to normal, but the one thing we know for sure is that many folks are experiencing life's transitions. This is a moment in time that is unusual, but I think you could probably look at your own life and see those transition moments that you've already lived through. Transition is something that happens, but it's not something that everyone deals with in a good way. In fact, so many people will transition from one career field to another, and although they may have been successful over here, they don't find the same success in their new place. This can happen in relationships, this can happen in careers, this can happen in various financial situations. Transition happens, and the decisions you make and the actions you take while you're transitioning will determine whether or not you are successful. So just a couple of things. We're speaking very broadly and very quickly, but a couple of things to keep in mind during moments of transition. The first one is this. It's one word: identity. I believe that the reason so many people struggle during times of transition is because their identity is tied to where they were, which leaves them empty when they get to where they're going. Their identity was tied to where they were, the thing that they did, the relationship they were involved in, the title that they had, whatever it is back here, their identity was there, and so when they transition out of that place, they've lost themselves. You've heard that said. They've lost their identity. During moments of transition, it's important to step back and understand who you really are. As a Christian, as a believer, I hope to and work to find my identity in Christ, in who He is. You see, that doesn't change regardless of where I find myself. We'll transition through various stages of life, but your identity should be centered in who you actually are, not in what you do. If you're going through a moment of transition, be sure to pause long enough to consider your true identity. That thing you really are on the inside. Who you are, what you care about, what you were placed on this earth to accomplish. What is your identity? It should not be tied to something back here or something over there. Let it be tied here so that when you transition, you don't lose yourself. Here's the second thing. It's another word: control. Control. Have you noticed that when you transition, you also lose control? I think that the reason a lot of people spin out of control when they're transitioning from one stage of life to another, or one phase of life to another, or like the thing we're all living through right now, through these self-imposed differences or transitions. The reason so often people spiral out of control when these things are happening is because they had it figured out over there. They had their hands on it over there, but something new requires they learn again and figure out what to do again, and they've lost control. It's crazy how losing control of a situation or a circumstance can make you feel out of control emotionally and even quite often spiritually. Instead of trying to control the new things or the things that are beyond our reach, we need to determine during moments of transition, I may not be able to control everything, but I will control the things that I can actually get my hands on. Perhaps you're experiencing a work transition or a home situation transition with your kids at home now and not going back to school anytime soon. Maybe you're traveling through a relationship transition. Again, whatever the case, you cannot control every aspect of that. And instead of worrying about what you cannot control, focus on what you can. It's amazing the peace that comes when we focus on the thing we actually have our hands around. So the first thing is identity. Your identity should not be tied to something over here. It should be centered and go with you wherever you find yourself. Step back and determine, if you have not, examine or remember your true identity. And then focus on controlling the things that you can actually control, the things you can actually get your hands on. Control what you can and let go of the rest. The third thing is, again, another word. Are you transitioning? Then don't lose hope. If you watch or listen to these perspectives on a weekly basis, you've heard me talk again and again about hope. You know what hope is? Hope is understanding that what I find in my world, this circle around me, the thing that I'm dealing with right now, that's not all there is. When someone is hopeless or they say, I've lost hope, what they mean is that they have concluded that what they're living through right now, the thing in the middle of their circle, that's all there is. There's nothing beyond this. You know, in moments of transition, we can forget that there is something beyond this moment of transition. For those of us living in the United States right now, we are experiencing a prolonged, government-imposed transition on all of our lives. Maybe we'll get back to some semblance of how things were. Maybe we won't. We have no idea. Again, there's not a lot of control. Our identity may be tied in what we knew to be true at one time, but we're questioning now. Let our identity be in the center. It shouldn't change with the circumstance. But also, our hope should not be in what we did or what we had or even what we thought to be true. Our hope has to be beyond where we currently stand. And again, if you're a believer, if you're a person of faith, your hope needs to be in a God who is bigger than the transition. Don't lose hope. So many people on the path of transition stop simply because they conclude there's nothing on the other side. Don't lose hope. Keep moving forward, and you will get to that destination. Transition is something that all of us will experience, all of us will live through, and we'll all get through this big transition we're experiencing together. But throughout our lives, there will be times of transition. And the truth is this: the decisions you make and the actions you take during those moments of transition will determine whether or not you are successful. Hang on to your true identity. Don't forget who you are. Control what you can and let go of the rest. And never lose hope.